Yeah, I think this is the earliest time that I've ever done I think, because I've been doing them for many
Yeah,
years.
this is a little bit early. It's
This is
difficult.
probably about the earliest.
Yeah, it's difficult to schedule.
I mean, it's good because you guys almost have to mix them up from semester to semester because of different classes.
I wanted to keep it on a Monday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Monday's neat, yeah. Friday, it's like, forget it. It's like, you're not gonna get many people attending on a Friday.
No one's coming. It's nice to have at the beginning of the week, have like an outlook for what's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, I'll let you introduce yourself. Maybe we'll have some more people trickle in. I may run out for some more people, but.
I was gonna say, we could wait
We could wait a few minutes.
Yeah, wait a minute or
I'll see
two.
if anyone else is.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
It does. What's up? During the weekend? Oh, last week? Yeah. Oh, yeah, the cooking. I think we're probably, I don't know, that's not my name. But like, it's like, for I think people still have some, feel free to get some holidays. And they're working on two sessions. It's very short center. Oh, really?
Let's go, Bill.
Oh, really?
You want to get started?
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Dave, for coming in. We have Dave Dombek today from AccuWeather. Hope everyone had a great weekend. And Dave, whenever you're ready, just feel free to take it away.
All right. Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity to do the weather briefing. I try to do this once every semester. This is my turn this semester. It's always a fun thing to do. It's kind of scrambling this morning. This is the earliest I think I've ever done these. So that's a good thing. Mix them up.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm going to do, we're obviously going to talk about the upcoming weather, current and upcoming. Hi, Marissa. But we're going to start with some climostats for State College. Also do a little brief recap of the recent severe weather reports. Some pretty active weather last several days, as we know, and probably going to have some more active weather in the very near future here. And also I'm going to highlight, where it has snowed a lot this winter. Certainly not here at State College and not east of the mountains, but it has actually snowed a lot in parts of the country. And then, of course, current and upcoming weather. If the time allows, I have a little text file that I had saved off. It goes through the different indices, severe weather indices, the K index, the lifted index, the totals, all those. If we have time, if not, we could just very briefly look through them. I could even save it. I could give it to you guys. It's not any proprietary information. It's just a summary of the severe weather indices. I thought maybe if we have time, if not, I'll just very, very briefly show it to you. So looking back at last month, I mean, it's early in this month, can't really do much of a recap for April yet, only 3 days, not even 3 days in. But March, our temperature departure was plus 1.8 degrees. Our total liquid precip, 2.0, and that's versus the historical average of 3.38. So a little bit on the little drier. Total snowfall was 3.3 inches. Now, since January 1st, our temperature departure, that's pretty impressive there, 6.5 degrees above normal. Liquid precip was actually not very far from the historical average, 8.26 versus 8.98. Total snowfall since January 1st, 10.3 inches. And then as we look ahead, we know the normals or the historical averages are going up at a rapid pace now. I always say you've got to keep up with them, or else it's very easy to get out of touch with reality. They're changing very quickly. About every 3 days, the normal high and low go up a degree. So keep up with those historical averages. Today, 53.34. Jump ahead 1 month from now, 66.46, and then 2 months from now, 74.56. So you see that things are trending upward quickly. Seasonal snowfall so far 24.3, and Mr. Syra, you could correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff. 43.1 historical average. Now, this is where you're going to come in, Bill. 2022-23 snow season, as it stands right now. If we never got another flake, where does that rank as far as the historical average, or the history? It's not going to. It's probably not going to be
Probably the bottom 20, I would say.
Yeah. And for the calendar year so far, and I left that blank, and just as I was trying to do that, our internet went out this morning, lo and behold. But I think I looked at the ranking for the annual for the year, and I think it doesn't quite make it to the top 10 least snowy. It's up there. It's certainly up there, but it doesn't quite make the top 10 list. But it certainly has been a relatively snowless winter. Now, if you've noticed this pattern, I call it the wash, rinse, and repeat. It just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. Same type of storm track, same type of weather, same type of impacts in the same parts of the country. It's just been crazy the way this has been. We've, the places that have been getting hammered with snow, they continue to get hit, and vice versa. Places getting ripped off have continued to get ripped off pretty much the entire season. We've been in a La Nina pattern, and oftentimes, La Nina patterns do favor big snow somewhere in the western mountains, maybe not as much California, but maybe more Pacific Northwest, but somewhere in the western part of the country over the mountains, northern plains, upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes region, northern New York, northern New England, and also into southern Canada. And that's certainly been the places that have been getting a lot of snow. So here's some examples. Again, it has snowed, and it's snowed a lot this season in various places. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 89, almost 90 inches versus a little less than 48 historical average. Green Bay, Wisconsin, 74.4 versus 51.1. Look at that one, Marquette, Michigan, 226.5 versus 178.5. Watertown, New York, 162.3 versus 97.5. Now here's you can almost see where the zero line is, where the normal, like where it's been close to where it should be across New England. It's been a big contrast from southern New England to central to northern New England. Concord, sort of smack dab in the middle there, they're very close to historical average. That's their season total versus what they should have. So they're really close. Boston, just a little ways down the pike here, very snowless. They have had some, but a lot less. A little over a foot of snow versus 47.9. You get up to northern New England, you get up to Caribou, 130.9 versus 109.5. So you could really see where that line is across New England. And of course, the snow drought areas, places that have been crying for snow and they just don't get it. New York City, every time I think we're going to get a little bit of snow, and it's hard to get more than a trace there at times. 2.3 versus 29.5, what we should have by now. And in Philly, 0.3, that's it, versus 22.9, where we should be. And talk about I'm just saying over 713. I don't have the exact, but it's a ton. The Sierra Snow Lab out in California, over 713 inches of snow. That's just mind-boggling. Supposedly out there, it's the snowiest winter that they've had in that part of the country in about 70 years. Just crazy stuff going on. And here's where the snow is still on the ground as of, this was yesterday, but it really kind of tells you where the snow is still. Northern New England, far northern New York State, upper Midwest, northern plains, and of course the mountains out west. That's where it is. Shifting gears to severe weather, again, it's been pretty active. This was the March 31st, the storm reports from the 31st. Very, very active day, tragic day, unfortunately for some. We knew that was going to be a crazy, busy wild day of severe weather. And that's the highlight, the summary of the reports. And then you go a day later, maybe not quite as bad, but still, there were a lot of reports, and certainly a lot of wind reports, 4 tornado reports, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, then maybe there's an extra one in there, depending on what the Mount Holly office did. I'll have to double check on that. So this might be a little bit outdated, but I know we had a couple in down in Delaware, and so it was very active in parts of the eastern Great Lakes, eastern Ohio Valley, and then parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. Some hail reports and a lot of wind reports. Even somebody we know, a friend of mine, lives over on Valley View, along Purdue Mountain, Bald Eagle Ridge, on the other side of Bellefonte. And he sent me a picture. I'll pull it up on my phone later. I'll show anybody that wants to see that. It was a big tree that got knocked over, excuse me, and you can see the root ball, like a shallow rooted tree that was just like blown straight over, and some kind of an outback, an outbuilding was damaged as well. So that was pretty wild. Not as much here, but isolated stuff around here. And looking forward here, here's where we are now. SPC there, we'll see what they do. They usually update their day 2 at 1730Z. Their day 1 they update at 1630Z. So we'll see if there's any updates on where they place their areas. But we're primed again for some very active weather in the middle part of the country, even kind of knocking on the doorstep of Chicago there. Maybe not in the worst zone, but certainly there's going to be some nasty stuff going on in the very near future. And then this is our day 3 look. This is our Wednesday outlook, and they are highlighting, that eastern Ohio Valley, eastern lakes, into Pennsylvania, western central New York. Maybe not quite to here. We're kind of borderline here, and as we'll see later as we go through the different maps, we're really kind of on the edge of the best dynamics and support for anything really beefy thunderstorm-wise around here. Probably, I think when push comes to shove, we'll find a way to thunder here, and maybe we'll get some gusty winds, whatever. My gut feeling is that we're just not going to get into the best of the activity, or the worst, depending on what your perspective is. So our current and upcoming weather, of course, we had a cold start this morning. I live in an area where it radiates very well at night, and I think I was down to like 23 or so this morning. It was a cold morning. Even in town, what were we doing, about 30 maybe for a min this morning? Around it. Okay, so it's certainly a cold start, but it's nice out there now. Temperatures are moderating. Today's probably going to be the nicest day of the week with both sky cover and temperatures combined. I think today will probably be perceived as the best of the week, although Friday's looking pretty good too, just cooler. We're going to have warmer but more moist weather the next couple of days. Certainly more clouds around tomorrow, but also some sun, mainly dry. There's some possibility that we get maybe just brushed by a warm convection shower or something later in the day, or whatever. It didn't look like much of anything going on tomorrow. I think Wednesday's our warmest day of the bunch. I think that temps should peak sometime on Wednesday of this week. Unless it ends up being wetter, then we're bargaining for it. If it ends up being wetter, there's more showers around, it'll keep temperatures suppressed some. Maybe it ends up, tomorrow and Wednesday end up being pretty similar, which is possible, but still leaning toward Wednesday being the warmest day this week. Thursday is going to be our transition day, and really it's going to depend on the speed of that next front. I think we certainly start off very mild, maybe a little bit wet, and then some drier and cooler air will arrive during the course of the day. So it's all a matter of timing, how quickly that transition happens. I think Thursday's probably a day where it doesn't go up much from the morning mid. And then Friday looks dry, more seasonable. I think it's at least partly sunny, maybe better than that. And then at this juncture, right now, Easter weekend, likely to be dry and with a gradual uptick in temps. Probably still kind of coolish, maybe, seasonable, maybe a little bit above on Saturday. And then by Easter week, Easter afternoon, by Sunday afternoon, I think we're looking at temps bouncing back nicely. It should be a pretty comfortable day. So here's just going through some of the sequence of, start with 500 millibars. This is this morning. It was a prog, from the Bureau last evening, the 0Z run. It's going to be pretty darn close to 12 hours. So you get the general gist of what's going on here. So here's the 500 millibar heights and vorticity from this morning, 12Z. You see that next system coming into the west there, kind of a flat flow, not much going on in the Midwest and into the east, just little wrinkles. And of course, you get that short wave up in the northern lakes. And here's our 700 millibar. This is, kind of just get an idea of your flow pattern and your moisture at 700 across the country. Here's your 850s. You can see where the chilly air, the colder air is. You can also see where it's quite warm at 850. Really that core there in Texas, Oklahoma, Southern Plains really looks pretty toasty down here at 850. This is this morning's surface pressure 12Z. Don't get scared. It looks like a really tight pressure gradient, but it's analyzed every 1/10 of a millibar, so the gradient looks a lot stronger than what it really is. But very easily you can see where the pressure features are. You get the high departing off to our east, and then you get a semblance of low pressure back over Missouri area. But basically here you've got the departing high pressure, and we're on the backside of the high with the south and southwest blow. There's our close-up of kind of centered on Pennsylvania with some of the neighboring states. This is our pressure map here, our surface analysis. This is our 12Z surface analysis. And you can see the air's pretty dry. I'm just looking here. We got a lot of dew points east and northeast of here in the teens still, even to the west and southwest of here back into Ohio. Now we still have dew points 30, 32 or so. So the air's pretty dry. Now here's the very quick snapshot of the composite radar from this morning. You got that system down to the south. That looks interesting. And then of course you got some developing areas of snow, and how would you would expect that next system coming in to the west. You got some rain in California, coastal Oregon, Washington, and you certainly are going to be spreading some more snows into the mountains out there as well. Here's our sort of regional, our snapshot from this morning at 8:15. The visible shot looks pretty nice here in central Pennsylvania. And bigger picture, this is our IR for the national view here around 8:15. You can see that system down to the south. Certainly see more action going on out west with more cloudiness and so forth, and you got some kind of a boundary stretched across the upper Midwest and into the northern lakes there. So now let's go back up to 500 millibars, and we're going to focus on that next system coming in from the west. This would be this is from the Euro again, from the 0Z run, and this is 12Z Tuesday, tomorrow, and you can see that next trough moving a little bit farther eastward into the Rockies. We still have a pretty nice flow here. It's actually a little shortwave bridging going on farther east ahead of that. Now we'll go 24 hours later. We're going to go to 12Z Wednesday, and there's that system. Nice. It's actually strengthened some. It's got some closed contours around that upper low, heading into the northern plains. It's like a pretty potent system there. And of course the ridge, look at that ridge over the southeast, over Florida, Eastern Gulf. That's a strong ridge, 588 plus heights down there. And then let's go to the next day. Let's go to Thursday. We're going to go to 18Z, and you can see what's happening. That short wave at the upper low is sort of lifting northeastward, and then it's kind of unraveling some. It is opening up somewhat as it's heading northeast. So a lot of the energy is coming out from the Rockies into the northern plains, upper Midwest, northern lakes, and now it's in the process of heading more into Ontario and Quebec, Canada. So now we'll jump ahead to Friday evening, 0Z Saturday. Where did it go? Well, I guess what's left of it is exiting out through New England there. But you could really see that it's a much different look on the 500 millibar charts there versus what we had a couple of days before. And now we'll go to Saturday evening, and that's looking pretty good. You see everything sort of peeling away through eastern Canada and off of the New England coast there. You could just see building heights to the west. You got a shortwave bridge building in, so that should set up a pretty nice second half of the weekend here with heights coming up from the west. There you can see them rising across the lakes to our west there on Saturday evening. Here's our mean sea level pressure and thicknesses, and we're going to, again, using the Euro as a good example here. This is tomorrow evening. This is 0Z Wednesday, and you can see our surface low heading out there into the plains. Certainly hinting already at some, and you'd have to really focus in and get more meso models here as to what's going on with the severe weather. But I'm sure, given that setup here, you know that some pretty nasty thunderstorms are going to be happening at that time of day, in 24, 30 hours or whatever from now. So things are going to get very active there with that type of a setup. We're still fairly quiet here at east. You get that little, almost like a backdoor front, but it's well north of here across, almost look like it's north of Boston, maybe near Portland or so, Portsmouth, and back into northern New York State. So then we're going to go to Wednesday evening. We'll go to 0Z Thursday, and now that frontal boundary is pushing farther eastward. You've got the surface low now is actually just north of Minnesota, just over the border at that time, and the showers, thunderstorms, and everything with the front are making eastward progress at that juncture. Now we're going to go 24 hours later. We'll go to 0Z Friday. And now, certainly I think Friday could be an active day east of the mountains with things slow enough. The front is probably slow enough that they're still getting some more wet weather. We're kind of on the edge back here. Like I said, I think we're going to get some spillover, leftover stuff in the morning, and maybe by the afternoon hours, we're actually drying out here where more is going on, east of the mountains, in particular, I-95 corridor toward the coast. You can see our next high pressure system now building down into the northern plains, and that's going to be our weather maker here, main weather maker, as we head into the weekend. And there it is. Let's go to 12Z Saturday. Looking pretty nice. It's at 1038. That's a good size high, sitting about over Bradford on Saturday morning. So that's looking quite nice. Cool, probably chilly that morning, but nice place to have high pressure heading into the weekend. And then there's the high. There's Sunday afternoon. There's Easter Sunday afternoon at 18Z. So the high has gotten to the coast, the mid-Atlantic coast, and it's moving offshore. It's even at that point, it's still like a 1032, 1033 high. So, and in our flow, we're just getting into the backside of the high, the return flow around the backside. As long as that thing stays suppressed. You guys remember a few days ago, I think it was the Euro was actually showing a snowstorm for Easter weekend. You guys remember that? It's like, uh-oh. And now that's probably, we have, it's one of those things that sometimes the models, the longer range model, whether it's the Euro, GFS, they all do the same, at times. They'll pick up on something and then it totally disappears. And then you get within like 3 or 4 days, and uh-oh, it starts returning. Here it comes back. So I think we're going to be okay. But certainly there is going to be a southern branch system down there. So always have to kind of keep that in mind. It's like, it's not like a slam dunk guarantee. It looks good from what we can see right now, but there is definitely going to be something down there. So keep that in mind. So go through some soundings here. This is off of the Euro. This is for 18Z tomorrow, Tuesday. And that really doesn't look too bad. Actually, there's some low-level moisture, from 850 on down to 900 or so. And there's some cirrus, but it doesn't look terrible. Now let's go to 21Z Wednesday. So this is kind of getting into that time frame where if we're thinking about, could it thunder? Maybe, maybe not. This time, maybe into the evening or early nighttime hours on Wednesday, that might be our prime time if we're going to be getting some thunderstorms. Again, maybe not severe, but certainly I think we got a shot. I'm just looking at some of it's certainly pretty moist. The whole column looks pretty moist. Just looking at some of the indices there, you get your LI is like minus 1.6. You do have some Cape, certainly not a lot. So it's borderline. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think when push comes to shove, we'll probably get some thunder out of this. My gut feeling is that it's not going to be anything really super beefy, like farther west and northwest. Now let's go to 21Z Thursday. This is 24 hours later now. And you can definitely see our flows turn westerly. You still have a lot of high level moisture from 200 down to 400. It's pretty saturated, pretty pinched in there, but and you got some mid-level moisture still hanging on. But generally, the column's trying to dry out here. The atmosphere is in the process of drying out now, especially with that. You look at the low levels, look at the west wind kicking in. So things are definitely, and look at that LI. That tells the story too. Plus 16.1. So can you say stable? And here's 18Z Friday. Looks pretty good. It's hinting at some cirrus, something going on way up above, but I mean, otherwise it looks like a pretty good day. It's very well mixed too. Look at that. I just noticed that now. I was thinking when I first did the screenshot of this, it was 850, but that's mixing to 800. So that's probably one of those days where if you're forecasting temps that day, we don't have any vegetation out yet. Things will have dried out regardless of what happens, how much rain we have. That would be a classic day if the 850 rule suggests X for our high temperature, add 2 or 3 degrees onto it that day, or more maybe. This time of year, no vegetation, and when you got a really deep mixing layer like that, you'll definitely want to add more to your equation when you're figuring out your temps. And here's Sunday afternoon. Again, fingers crossed, it looks pretty good, pretty open sounding. You can see our flows turn back around to the south. Here's some gridded data from off of the Euro, from the 0Z run. And you can see the trends of each of the columns. It's sort of a summary of what's going on, the actual gridded numbers. Like you look at the heights, snapshot here, you can see in the short term, you got rising heights. I'm just looking here, and it looks like they actually peak. Our heights don't really peak here till Wednesday evening, 0Z Thursday. And then there are some height falls, but boy, it doesn't look like, crazy height falls, but you are down, as you head into Friday night, then you're down to like 563 or so. So it's, they come down, but it's not like crashing heights. And then we recover a little bit over the weekend. You see your thickness trends. You can see your 850 certainly peaking here midweek. And that's been the theme, and I think that is correct. And then we have that cooling late in the week, spills over into the early part of the weekend, and then we're moderating again. It doesn't look like really warm air through Sunday, but you can definitely see the 850s on their way back up by then. And you can see the 2 meter temps too. You can look at, obviously the cooler day Friday may still be cool, but nice on Saturday. And then you have that nice bounce back on Sunday. Similar trend on the GFS. This is the 6Z run, the gridded numbers. Again, same type of pattern when you look at the heights, you look at the thicknesses, you look at your 850s, and also you look at the one thing I do see a difference, Euro versus GFS. I'm seeing the GFS is very clear that they're going with their cooler weather. Well, of course, it's almost like if you take it literally, they're going with falling temps here on Thursday. 12Z, 12.7, 11, 11.0, and 18Z, and then 8.8. That might happen if it's pretty cloudy. This time of year to get falling temps during the day is pretty rare. I mean, it's got to be pretty much cloudy or precipitating for temps to fall during the day with cold convection. If you get any sun out at all, there's that battle, and sometimes it's just a standoff, and temperatures don't go much of anywhere, which I kind of think is going to be the case. Maybe we fall back a little bit, and then we level. But it's tough to get falling temps all day on an April day. But what it is showing here is that Friday versus Saturday, whereas the Euro is hinting that Saturday could actually be the cooler of those 2 days, the GFS is a little bit faster with everything, and this is clearly saying that Friday is the cooler day, and already by Saturday we're recovering. And of course, Sunday we're definitely bouncing back. So, what does it all mean here? Kind of boiling everything together. It's going to be quiet early in the week, not much going on, and then somewhat wet middle of the week. But it's possible that our actual rainfall that we get out of this whole setup this week, if you're looking for rain, you want it to rain. I'm just not sure if the timing is not right. Maybe we get a quarter, half an inch or more, but I can also see how we really get kind of the rip-off here with a lot of the energy lifting to our north and west like that. Huge high falls. Maybe the timing of the front is not the greatest. Throat thaw is going to be like early Thursday or so. And so it could be one of those things where we really relatively get minimal amount of rain with this frontal passage and this air mass change that we're going to get later in the week. And they'll do better to the west of us, not a surprise, and northwest, and they'll also potentially do better east of the mountains as the front is slowing down. Maybe the timing's a little bit better, like in New York and Philly and places like that. And again, thunderstorms, my gut feeling, it's certainly possible. I think it's likely, at least in the area. But the best chance of severe weather is going to be, I really feel it's going to be north and west of us. And then, of course, Thursday's weather will depend on that timing in the front. Slower, it's going to take longer to clear out, maybe some showers linger longer, and vice versa. Things are a little bit faster. And end of the week and this weekend, should stay weekend, they're looking good. And I think temperatures this week, somewhat of a roller coaster ride. They're going to be up the next couple of days, turning cooler late in the week, not cold, but cooler into the start of the weekend, and then milder again by Easter Sunday. So the rest of today, it's pretty sunny out there now. I just call it sunshine mixing with some clouds. You look at some of the soundings. They're hinting that we've got some, especially some cirrus, some high clouds showing up as the afternoon wears on. But overall, not a bad day here today. Go with a 63. Tonight, partly to mostly cloudy skies. Certainly not as cold as the last 2 nights have been. We go 44. Tomorrow, some kind of cloud and sun combo. Might go back and forth some, but I think we'll see both clouds and sun tomorrow. A warmer day, we're going to push it to around 70. Could be a little higher. On Wednesday, a lot of clouds, mostly cloudy. It'll be a warm day. Dew points are up that day too. We'll say a few showers and a thunderstorm around, especially in the afternoon and nighttime hours. I think that's our prime time when we're going to be getting potentially wet, and we'll push it to 76. Again, that's a day where I think we're good. Could we overachieve a little bit? We're prefrontal, maybe. We probably have to have some breaks and maybe very little going on rain-wise, which is certainly possible. And on the flip side of that, if it's a little wetter, a little faster, pretty much just a dead overcast all day, then we might be struggling to get much above 70, but kind of feel good somewhere mid-70s. And then Thursdays are, again, our transition day. We're cooler overall. And I think our max temp could be reached in the morning sometime or midday, and we just don't really move much from there. It's going to be a very mild night Wednesday night. That should be a pretty balmy night most of the night, and we don't move much with our temps on Thursday. We'll just call it clouds and leftover shower, giving way to some late day breaks of sun. And then Friday, not a bad day. We end the week here, Good Friday, a sunny to partly cloudy, a seasonable day, somewhere mid-50s, call it 55. And over the weekend, overall, it looks dry, nice. It'll be cold here, chilly come Saturday morning, but we should be pretty nice by the afternoon hours. Still coolish, but maybe seasonable, a little above. And then by Sunday afternoon, I would expect temps are going to be trending back into the middle 60s. So that is my wrap up with this portion. Any questions, any comments on any of the stuff I covered here today? Yes.
I had a question on the severe reports at the beginning. I noticed there's this large gap in central PA up towards northeast PA, northeastern New Jersey, a lot of those areas that were under enhanced risk. But like the models were very aggressive about the squall line for those areas originally, seemed to drop off as it got closer. If you go through like the NAM, compare the NAM 12C to the 18C in the day, the strong line, you know, the 18C completely broken. Do you know what busted in the model to cause the difference?
I wonder, I mean, we certainly had the height falls, there's no doubt. I mean, you had big height falls going on. You had the good timing of the secondary or the real cold front, if you want to call it that. I wonder if it was a case where maybe the dew points came down a little bit too quickly. Behind that, the stuff that came through at nighttime, Friday night, and earlier on Saturday, I wonder if that there was enough subsidence, enough drying that happened behind that, and maybe the dew points came down to the levels where you just didn't quite have what you had farther east, where the dew points were higher, maybe the timing and everything.
Yeah.
That's one take on it. I didn't really pick it apart, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not saying that it didn't get gusty and we didn't get, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was further south.
Further south.
That's like where those dew points went on. So,
Yeah, and even like New York City area, it wasn't, yes.
I was just say, I wasn't here on Saturday, but the dew point at my house went down into the 30s Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
Before the front came through.
Okay, so that, I bet you that had to have, boy, it was beautiful here. I mean, when that sun came out, you know, when that line went east of here Saturday morning and the temperatures were going up, and I mean, it was beautiful, it was gorgeous. When I was with some friends of mine, I said, well, this is not gonna last, that things are gonna get kind of angry here, which it wasn't bad, but it got windy certainly, and got clouded up, and you got gusty showers and rumbles and whatever, so it certainly did get active. But yeah, I didn't realize the dew point was that low. So I knew that they had dropped. I just didn't realize it was that far of a drop, and that might have been it right there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder if you have any comments on like kind of the persistence, maybe perhaps a little unusual persistence this winter of like, even this spring, kind of like negative P&A and, general trophiness in the west and, generally speaking, ridginess, I guess, in the east. I feel like it's almost a little bit unusual to get sort of a pattern that persistent for so long.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not unusual to get patterns to lock in for, a few weeks, sometimes a month, 6 weeks, couple months. I mean, but it's been so persistent. You're right. We've had the La Nina pattern. We've had the negative. A lot of the times, if you look at the whole history of the last several months, the P&A, every now and then it goes to positive P&A, but a lot of the time it's been negative P&A. That's, trophiness west, ridging in the east. It's just been, like I call it the wash, rinse and repeat pattern. It's just crazy, It's not unusual to get a pattern to lock in for a time, but it's been, unusually long, but it's locked in there, so, yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's like kind of equivalent to, I guess it's kind of the opposite. I know in 2014, 2015, kind of the opposite of the negative NEO for and more like a positive P&A for kind of a longer period. I don't think that would last as long as like this negative P&A.
No, I think you're right. Well, and that's why when you're in that pattern, like I said, the places that have been getting hammered with snow continue to get hammered with snow. The places that are getting ripped off and little or no snow, same thing. It's just that you can't seem to break away from that at all. So, any other questions? And then briefly, I was just going to show you that. Do we have time, or how are we doing with time?
We have about 5 minutes or so.
Okay, if you want to, I'm going to close this out, and if you can maybe give me a hand here and get that other file up here. And this is going to be very brief. I'm just going to go through this really quickly, and I can just leave it on the desktop for you guys. It's just a very quick summary. Okay, so we're in severe weather season. It's nice. We have a nice little text file on our internal system at AccuWeather Me and a couple of other people worked on this several years ago. It's at least several years old, but basically it's a good summary when you're looking at the different indices. So, we start with CAPE. I mean, some of those are no-brainers, strong convection, 2,500 to 300, 3,000, 3,000 plus. So here's your SIN, CAPE and your SIN. Then your LCL. So that's an important one there when your LCL is, less than 750. That's a good one to remember. Lifted index, we don't use it as much, but boy, in the old days, that was an old standby. We used LI very often. If I saw LIs of -7s, -8s or so, it's like, wow, that really got your attention. Your total totals. When I see total totals getting above 50, it gets my attention. Your K index, your old basic, it's a good one for pop-up air mass thunderstorms. A very poor indicator, though, of severe thunderstorms. And so you see K index up above 40, it's a pretty good chance you're going to get a lot of air mass stuff popping up. Thompson's index. Again, greater than 40. Not one that's very common, it's not used very often. Showalter, I'm a real fan of using Showalter index when we're trying to figure out if there's going to be elevated convection. It's an older index, but I'll tell you what, until somebody shows me a better index to use, I'm going to keep using Showalter, because this is a very good, if you're looking at something, maybe it's warm frontal stuff, it's like, is there going to be any elevated thunder? That's so stable. That, you look at this, it's real stable, but yet there's embedded, elevated thunder, and the Showalter will do a great job of picking that up. So again, I'm a big fan of using Showalter when it comes to elevated. Your bulk shear, your storm relative helicity is a good, these are good, that 350 and above, it's like, okay, that's, watch out, supercells and tornadoes likely. Your bulk Richardson number. Your sweat index, that's another one that's pretty good, when it comes to, it does include a term for speed and directional shear between 850 and 500. It is pretty good at assessing severe threat given an environment that's already deemed conducive for thunderstorms. So if you pretty much know there's going to be thunderstorms, the sweat index is a good one. I do use that. Not a lot, but I will use the sweat index.
Where's the best place to find a lot of these indices at the current values, like SBC meta-analysis site or something like that?
I believe, and how much they actually have on their site. I know they focus, obviously, CAPE, SIN, some of the other ones are more common. Like I said, I can leave this on the desktop. You guys could have this as reference, and
that'd be great.
certainly, in older textbooks or whatever. Your energy helicity index, your supercell composite, and then your significant tornado parameter. These are ones, you'll see your supercell, like on the 3K NAM, the HER, they'll have that. They'll usually have that in map form.
Yeah, some of these are more common, some a little bit, like Showalter. I never heard of that before.
Showalter, like I said, I'm a huge fan, and I was just talking to the guy that, one of the guys I worked with on this little summary here, and we were saying, until somebody could show us something better than Showalter for elevated convection, I'm still there with Showalter. So anyway, I'll leave this on the desktop. You guys can have that as a great reference. So. Anything else before we wrap it up?
Cool, great, thank you, Dave.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah, this one, you can just leave that, this text file.